So even though no one seemed to show too much interest in this idea, like I said in my last video about Hell House LLC, I love found footage films and I wanted to make a video about it, so yeah. And while I was doing research for that last video, link in description by the way, I didn't realize how many underrated found footage films there are that I not only enjoy, but have many great memories attached to. So found footage and horror are almost synonymous with each other now, but for me, these types of films have such an impact because they feel so real, like the most real out of any style of movie, and as an aspiring content creator, they give a lot of inspiration because of their low budget style. So they allow for concepts that you would think would require a major production company to be shown through a DIY lens, making you feel like you could really be a part of what you're watching, and more importantly, spotlighting underground talent. When you're only given a few handheld cameras and some cheap but hustling actors, a director can show off their eye and skills by working around the budget to still immerse you fully into their project. So before we get into the short but timeless history of found footage films, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on that notification button for future videos, and also stick around to the end for a giveaway announcement. Found footage films, the good, the bad, and the classics. Considering you guys are movie and TV show buffs like me, I don't feel the need to give a full explanation of what makes a found footage film. I'm sure you already know, but let's go over the basics. Now there's a debate to when this directing style was invented, but it's widely believed that Cannibal Holocaust, released in the early 1980s, was the first technical found footage film. And I'm sure many of you have heard of this movie because of its disturbing nature, but its impact on the movie industry lasted a lot longer than its gruesome horrorcore scares. Being that it was the first film of its kind to be released to the public and because of how it was marketed, many people believe that this movie was actually real. In the past, movies with never before seen effects and plots like The Exorcist were so new and terrifying that some people questioned the existence of these movie concepts. Can little girls actually get possessed by demons? Is Jaws out there lurking in the water? These dudes? But all of these are larger budget, studio produced films, so many people use the "it's just a movie, it can't hurt me" technique to just get some sleep at night. But as handheld cameras like VHS became more and more available to the public and not a foreign concept, seeing that style on the big screen didn't make a lot of sense to the audience. Think about it from their perspective. I go to the movie theater to see a grand spectacle where the average person would have zero clue where to even start if they were told to make it. But hey, I'm watching this movie and I have a camera like that at home, or at least it looks very similar. So the directors and actors are just regular people with cameras you can buy down the street? Maybe this is real. And that's where we get the core element of found footage films. The only narrator you can trust is whoever is holding the camera. When the camera is on, that is the truth. Cannibal Holocaust dealt with a lot of controversy because of the fact that people thought it was real, and then a whole lore around it started to be created. But now we all obviously know, well, depending on who you ask, that those events didn't actually happen, and it is indeed just a movie at the end of the day. But in 1980, you couldn't tell those horrified audience members that it wasn't real. But how much power can a movie really have? Like, can it shut down an entire country for 24 hours? In 1992, on Halloween night, Great Britain as a whole experienced a scare that's only comparable to Orson Welles convincing the whole world we were being attacked by aliens in the 1930s. Now, we are still teeter-tottering over the line of mockumentary and found footage films, but as you will find by the end of the video, most of the time they are one and the same. But each of their styles were critical in each of their developments. Ghostwatch is a fake TV investigation of a woman and her crew investigating a haunted house where one of the family's daughters is experiencing demonic encounters. Think Conjuring 2, I mean literally they're both British, so yeah, think Conjuring 2. The crew were said to be a part of the BBC network and their investigation was being broadcasted on the TV. This, along with the husband of the lead investigator being a part of the news team and Michael Parkinson hosting the whole thing, it looked nothing but real life. Michael Parkinson was like the most famous British late night talk show host at the time. Imagine if like Anderson Cooper or Don Lemon was like, now here's footage of our crew investigating this haunted house. I mean, you'd believe that shit too. So as many families turned on their TV to watch some late night news before they went to bed, they are met with their trusted host, Michael, telling them that what you're about to see is live and completely real, as they proceeded to play the taping of the mockumentary Ghostwatch. Literally a 10 out of 10 prank, and I absolutely love this movie too. But what followed after the release of the film is something that I would need a whole other video to explain. And I'm not a true crime YouTuber. So I highly suggest you watch some videos about this and check out the movie when you get a chance. And as popular as this event was, found footage films still had yet to break into the mainstream. You knew this one was coming. Come on now. If you're around my age, you know, anywhere from 18 to 24, I highly suggest you ask your parents about what it was like when Blair Witch Project came out in 1999. I mean, this was a cultural phenomenon. People still weren't used to the idea of found footage films, and gullible people alike again see handheld cameras and just assumed it was real, but this is the first instance of the whole zeitgeist being aware of a found footage film. Whether you like the film or not, I've seen it and it's honestly just okay, it's alright. It is one of the most referenced horror movies of the last 30 years. This film created the formula. I mean, when you think about found footage, you start out with a description of the events, usually marketed as true crime, then you say the people involved filmed and documented their whole experience, and then after the people went missing or something and people went looking, they found their cameras and the footage is what we are watching in the film. And this is the core of making you think that it's real. Again, we have many other movies to discuss, so I'm not going to recap each of them, but what Blair Witch did was create a space for movies like this to be released. It changed the horror genre and the movie industry in general. Again, whether you or I actually like the movie or what came from it, I at least really like the idea that anyone with pure movie making talent can get their work out there without the backing of an industry budget. So of course many people try to recreate this feeling, and that's where the problem started. When something is new and unique, it's interesting, but when it's also done well, it's exciting. So of course there can very rarely be one of a kind, because no matter what, people will try to copy. But someone else will come along and do it well too. We see this in music, sports, the internet. People want to get in on the new buzz. But with low budget found footage films, it's just different because people really feel like anyone with a handheld camera can do it. You would think that right after Blair Witch got popular, there would be copycat after copycat, and there were definitely some, but we didn't see another found footage film of that magnitude for almost a decade. But when we did, for the next 7 years to follow, we got way too many. Like, I don't think you realize how many. And also, I'm gonna call found footage films F3 from now on because I keep stuttering and it'll save time. But we got the Paranormal Activity series, 8 films spanning 14 years, REC, 4 films over 7 years, Cloverfield, which turned into something totally different, but the first one is a classic F3. Lake Mungo, Quarantine 1, which I absolutely love, but also Quarantine 2. District 9, Megan is Missing, the beloved Grave Encounters 1 and 2, Apollo 18, the VHS series, Chronicle, our first couple of non-horror F3s, Project X and End of Watch. This style became so popular it entered the parody industry with A Haunted House and Scary Movie 5, and of course a lot of exorcism movies. Like a lot of exorcism movies. And it can all be attributed to Paranormal Activity and Blair Witch. I remember the hype of the second one way more, but the first Paranormal Activity was the millennials' Blair Witch. Commercial after commercial of these theater audiences reacting to the most realistic paranormal story ever told. It was also one of the catalysts of popularizing based on true events, when it's just a lie, there were no true events there. Like Amityville Horror from the 70s is a documented police case, you know? But these people were never real. But when you tell people it is and you use handheld cameras, people will always be gullible and think it's real. But this film series has even more of an impact than you think. The same year of its release, we got the very website we are both on right now, YouTube. And remember what I said about people thinking they can make F3s if they get a handheld camera? Well, now you can upload those short videos to a free website and gain an audience through making very, 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 very short F3s. And I think we were all introduced to YouTube through a scary, true paranormal encounter video, making this style of film seem pretty obsolete after a couple years. But through the sea of cheap scares and camcorder motion sickness, truly great films were able to shine through. So for this section, I want to discuss what I believe are the 3 best found footage films that I have personally ever seen, and there's no particular order. And we've talked a bit about the bad, but 1, I don't like to be negative, and 2, we'd be beating a dead horse with a lot of them, especially the products of the exorcism found footage era. But before we get into what I think are the classics, I want to briefly go over the other category in this video. The good. The list of F3s I'm about to ring off are all deserving of a watch, but I'm putting them on here because I think they took an overused formula and either made it their own or created something new and special. So, we got Grave Encounters 1 and 2. I personally really enjoyed Paranormal Activity 1 and 2 and even the marked ones, but that's probably more nostalgic value. Ghost Watch, which I already talked about, is one of my favorites, along with The Houses October Built. The first Quarantine holds a special place in my heart. Some newer ones like The Visit, The Taking of Deborah Logan, and Spree are all enjoyable, not too crazy. And I even liked Alien Abduction. Would I like all of them now? I'm not sure, but when they came out, I did. Alright, now for the big 3. So first, Hell House is one of them, and if you want to see a whole video about that whole film series, you're in luck because I just made one and it is linked in the description and at the end screen of this video. Yes, there's 3 films in that series, but the majority of the video, we talk about the first one, and that's the one I think is top 3. Anyway, the other 2, 2014's As Above, So Below and 2015's Creep. So I was actually lucky enough to be able to see this movie in theaters with my boys under no parental supervision. I had just turned 13 that year, so that's when I was allowed to start really doing my own thing, you know? But to this day, this is one of the most memorable experiences I've had in a theater, and me and my friends that I was with that day still talk about it almost 9 years later. I can't lie, when I first wrote that 9 years later and now saying it, it's kind of depressing. As Above, So Below takes your usual, we're investigating this spooky place and the footage you're watching is what the crew documented, but it intertwines historical context in a very dense story throughout. A researcher and her cameraman go to explore the very much real catacombs in Paris in search for an ancient powerful stone that her father died trying to find. The underground tunnels covered in human remains are open to the public to an extent, but the majority of the infrastructure is either closed off or way too dangerous to explore. In comes these guys. Throughout the film, we get some very solid scares, not your usual cheap ones, an insane feeling of eeriness and claustrophobia, and genuinely good acting and character building. We see as each character is tormented by their past through the guise of demonic forces as they quite literally descend further and further into hell. There's a whole lore you can try and uncover through clues throughout the film. I mean, this movie is not what you would expect when you hear mid to low budget horror found footage film. I mean, this is just a great movie, and you can't tell me that it isn't scary. Now, Creep is a whole new concept on its own. It's barely even found footage, just using the style as a vehicle to tell one of the weirder stories I've ever seen on screen. And I did talk about this movie a little bit in my review of The One I Love, starring the main character in Creep, Mark Duplass, but again, it would take me a whole nother video to really give this movie justice. So a man takes out an online ad for a guy who's allegedly dying of cancer. This man wants some of his final days recorded and documented so his children and family can watch it and have it long after he's gone. Depressing, but seems like a semi-realistic thing someone in that situation might want. But once this guy pulls up and gets to actually interact with him, he very soon realizes this guy is not normal. What makes the movie is the cameraman slowly realizing this guy is crazy, but also just doing what's right, what we would all do. Be nice to the guy with cancer, obviously. Who knows, maybe he's just acting weird because of something medical. There is a second installment to this film that is almost just as good, but each movie is around an hour and a half, and when I say it's worth the watch, I'm saying this is arguably the greatest found footage film. And it's just two guys, a cabin, in the woods, one camera, a wolf mask. The acting is amazing, the story is terrifying. Peak F3. Towards the end of the quote-unquote golden age of found footage, we got the first installment of the new genre of F3, 2015's Unfriended. Just like the jump from technology in the Blair Witch Project to Paranormal Activity, as the times change, so does the film industry. And with technology being the centerpiece of F3s, we are bound to get movies like Unfriended, Spree, Host, and the surprisingly good Searching with John Cho. Instead of VHS, it's now computers, iPhone, and live streams. And I expect more and more movies like that as the time comes. I mean, I could actually imagine something possibly good that's completely centered around like an Aiden Ross style Twitch stream that like turns into a murder mystery or like a ghost story or something. But just like with all genres and styles of art that get oversaturated, the true talent shines through. And the new big one was Searching from 2018. I enjoyed it, I thought it was very unique, but the sequel coming out this year called Missing is getting really hyped up, like especially the last couple weeks since the trailer dropped. If this style, specifically how it was done in Searching, can improve and be expanded upon with the second one, I think the new age of F3 has some hope. But if we keep getting Unfriended style horror schlock, we're gonna need to see a return to the original style, but with a new twist. Like, who's gonna make the next Creep? Wow, just writing this video was so fun. Like, I love getting to reminisce on one of my favorite guilty pleasures. So in conclusion, I guess, the reason I found footage films, again, I told myself I'd say F3, but the reason I find them so enjoyable is because it's the best example of the camera being the eye into the story. With the majority of movies, you can think of the narrator as the camera, but for the most part, the camera just acting as like flies on the wall as you watch the story unfold. And yes, there's movies where the narrator is a specific main character and we follow their perspective through the camera, but again, you never know who you can truly trust from each perspective in the movie. But when a movie is supposed to emulate the real world from a real person's perspective, the camera acts as a portal. In movies like Hell House LLC, where the camera we are watching out of changes with the story, like one turns off and then we switch to the other, I don't know how else to describe it, but it just feels real. And I know I'm not saying anything new or intense, I mean, this is literally POV, but the experience I have with F3s is just more intimate than I have with any other genre of film. Not saying that it's better, it's just more intimate. And yes, that is just my opinion, but again, F3s allow for something way more important that I think is being very overlooked. Creative storytelling without the use of industry level production. Like, that in itself, bro. Some directors of these movies have the talent of some mainstream ones, but it's just not blockbusters, so they don't get the respect they deserve. But when you break movies down to their core element, just telling a story, F3 pioneers had to maneuver around many obstacles in order to do it in a newer and unique way, and this has brought over 3 decades worth of great film. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and let me know in the comments your favorite found footage films. And for the giveaway that I mentioned in the intro, whoever wins will receive $50. And alright, let me just explain it. So to enter the giveaway, it's just a few easy steps. Jesus, I sound like I'm reading a commercial. All you have to do is post this video, whether a screen clipping of it or a link, on your Instagram or Snapchat story, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok too if you want to. And as long as you leave it up for 12 hours and you send me a screenshot through Instagram, or if you don't have one, you can send me an email with the screenshot, your name will be entered. Each post on separate platforms equals to 1 name in the draw. So for example, if you post it on your Instagram story and then put the link on your Twitter, you will be entered twice into the draw to win $50 randomly. Random winner. I'm also going to put this giveaway on my Instagram, so if you need further details, go there. I always have my account linked in the videos, but here it is on the screen just in case. Alright, so yeah, obviously I'm trying to get my channel out there more, but I'm not lying about that. But if I'm going to pay someone $50 for a promotion, I'd genuinely rather it be one of you guys. The supporters, you guys are the reason this channel is still going strong. I don't know, I just felt like I had to explain myself. So again, if you enter by posting, just DM me on Instagram or email me. My email's in the description, in my bio, it's everywhere. Everything will be available for you to contact me. If you enter by posting on any platform, you will be in. And a random winner probably like a week to 2 after this video gets posted. I'm not sure when I'll be posting it, but just know a week or 2 after it, a random winner will win $50. And yeah, I'm really excited about this because so far just writing the script, recording it, and just reading it over a couple times, this has been like my favorite video ever to make so far. So I'll see you guys soon, and I'll be updating here and on Instagram everything for the giveaway. And yeah.